At UCL this year, we put in place funds, which Paul has masterminded, to support all of you, all UCL researchers, with open access. That's the first thing that we need to sort of talk about and explain how you can use those funds. And the reason for that really is that where you have a choice between green and gold open access, where you can deposit or choose a paid open access option for immediate open access on a publisher site, we feel that the choice should be yours. It should be an academic decision, and there shouldn't be sort of administrative or financial barriers, I think I'm right in saying, Paul, to allowing you to make your work open access. As I say, UCL Discovery is very successful, and it continues to be a showcase for all UCL research. So when we're talking about paid open access, it really is mainly for articles, as I say, for conference proceedings, and to a certain extent for book chapters. But UCL Discovery can host all sorts of different types of research. And as you may be aware, we have had a publications policy in place for some while that requires authors, copyright permissions allowing, to deposit their outputs in UCL Discovery. So how do you get started with this? Well, one of the first things, it looks fine up there, it was incredibly stretched on my screen. One of the first things we did when we were setting up our sort of increased support for UCL authors in the wake of the RCUK policy and the developments in open access that have happened over the last 12 months or so, was to put together some web pages. So you may have come across these already. What they try to do is to make the process as sort of focused on the particular researcher as we can. So you can choose, depending on whether you're funded or not funded, the particular set of instructions that you need. So our web pages are there. You'll find on there some easy definitions of gold and green, which you'll also find in the guides in your packs. Some FAQs about the payment process and about the deposit process in Discovery. And a list of our publisher memberships, which I'm going to talk about in a little while. It's just worth bearing in mind that we're trying to put in place arrangements with publishers to make this process straightforward for you and to make sure that we're getting value for money. Most importantly, we have what's hopefully a fairly memorable email address. It's just open-access@UCL, and that reaches me, and through my team it reaches the Discovery team as well. So if you have any questions about open access, please do just drop us a line. That's how most of this all starts. So open access over the last 6 months or so has changed in scope and in dimension hugely. As Phil was saying, with the RCUK policy, particularly on the 1st of April. But the Wellcome Trust, as many of you may already know, has had an open access policy and has supported it with funding for many years, about 7 years now. The Research Council's policy was introduced on the 1st of April, as I say. I'm not going to talk too much about the particular requirements, but I'll touch on them in a minute. Because I know we've got a whole spread of different researchers, some funded, some not. I just wanted to make the point, though, that we're not just talking about Research Council and Wellcome Trust funded articles here. We're also able to advise you on all types of other funders' policies, whether biomedical or not, and of course on the coming HEFCE policy. So when HEFCE makes its announcement, we'll be there to make sure that this process is as straightforward for you as it possibly can be. So it's not something to be, it's something to be aware of rather than overly concerned about, I think I'm right in saying. When we're advising authors on what their funders require, it's much easier with all of this to talk about a specific publisher and a specific funder. Once you start talking about once you start talking about this in the abstract, it gets ridiculously confusing. But just to sort of give you an idea of what funders do require, if you're not already aware of this. The biomedical funders, so Wellcome Trust, MRC, CRUK, ARUK, and so on. The requirement is normally deposit in Europe PMC no later than 6 months after publication. So it's quite a short maximum embargo period. The AHRC and the ESRC is a very much longer embargo period to reflect these different, the different types of different approaches and different requirements for particular disciplines. So that requirement is 24 months after publication. Other research councils, 12 months after publication, and interestingly, the ERC and now the Wellcome Trust is extending its open access policy to books as well, to monographs and monograph chapters. So you can see how this immediately gets quite messy, and that's why I say if you're funded by a particular body, we can advise you on what you need to do and what we need to do to help. If you've got the choice of green or gold, there are a few things to think about when you're choosing one route or another. So we've got some ideas of the sorts of things that you might want to think about, but this is really your choice. So things to consider for gold open access: do you want immediate open access on the publisher site? Is that important to your research? Would you prefer the publisher PDF to be used in UCL Discovery, which we'll arrange if you're choosing the gold route? If you're concerned about funds and value for money, it's worth bearing in mind that we have put in place a number of publisher prepayment schemes that will try to get the best process and the best value for money that we can. But if you prefer green, or there's no gold option from your publisher, you can deposit in Discovery, and I'll tell you how to do so in a minute. So these are the publisher schemes that we've got set up at the moment, and I should mention that the turtle that's sitting quietly in your packs underneath your chairs is not designed as advertising whatsoever, and is not to promote any particular publisher, which is why he's got his little label on him. But he's really because we thought he'd be a nice freebie for you. So we've got stacks of them in the office. We're overflowing with them. So we have, but you can see that we have prepayment schemes. It's great in our office. So you can see that we've got prepayment schemes with a really wide range of publishers. So not just biomedical, not just the typical suspects. So we've got Ubiquity, we've got Social Sciences and Humanities Directory, Taylor Francis and Sage. So we're not only engaging with the big sort of usual suspects, as I say. You're not supposed to read this, you're not even necessarily supposed to read it when the publisher, no I didn't say that, I was going to say when the publisher sends it to you. The idea really of showing you this is just to say that all the publisher's options are different, all the publisher forms are different. It can be just horrendous even for us trying to work out exactly what they're wanting you to do. So really get in touch with us at any stage of the process, ideally before submission, but acceptance or even after acceptance is fine. Just drop us a line and we'll tell you what you need to do in any particular case. This is a slide about depositing in UCL Discovery, and this is with thanks to Erica really, who can tell you very much more about this at the reception afterwards, and we do hope that you'll have a chance to stay in the buttonholes with difficult questions if you're that way inclined. So with gold, we will deposit the publisher PDF immediately in UCL Discovery. And if you're funded, particularly if you're RCUK funded and you're complying through the gold route, through the green route rather, then we'd ask you just to send us an email with the final manuscript, and we'll deposit that. Otherwise, if you're not funded, you can deposit through RPS or by sending UCL Discovery an email. Particularly if you want to deposit more than one paper, you can just attach them all to an email, and they'll manage that. And really, the key point about Discovery is that the team is there to manage the publisher embargoes for you, to check copyright for you, so they will be able to advise in specific cases on what needs to be done to release a particular article, for instance, after an embargo period. And UCL Discovery is very visible in online searches, so you'll often find it coming up either above the publisher result or right next to it. So it's just worth remembering that it is a really good showcase for your research, and it provides, Katrina was talking about statistics, it provides download statistics by country as well. This is my very last slide. Where can you get help? I haven't really talked very specifically, and I'm very keen to hear sort of feedback and questions, so do grab us, grab me or the rest of the team upstairs afterwards if you can stay, or just drop us a line. The website is there, the open access email is there, and if you really like, you can follow us on Twitter, because everybody has to be on Twitter these days, don't they? And don't forget to put those dates in your diary.
So, could you have the speakers to join me here at the table for our round table session? We have 15 minutes where questions can be thrown at us from our colleagues on the floor. We have some roving microphones and they will pick up questioners. And this lady here at the front is first hander. So if you tell us your name and department and then ask us your question.
Lucia Sibatti from Neuroscience, Physiology and Pharmacology. A quick question and a more complicated one. A quick question is for the last speaker. Have you got on your open access web pages lists of journals with specific comments? Say, I am funded by BBSRC and MRC. I am now thinking about choosing the journal, where to submit, I need to prepare it. I need to know in advance which journals will be okay.
I had this question yesterday, day before yesterday actually, and I'm really glad you asked it, because it's almost impossible to provide a list. What I would say is that there are services out there that try to do so, the Sherpa services are the best known, but like everything else, they are confusing, they're not necessarily 100% up to date. I'm saying that on camera, but I think they probably accept that. And what they're trying to do is summarise a whole range of different funders' policies in one go, so they can be very confusing. The vast majority, I would say, of journals comply. One or two. We've had problems with one or two very small American society publishers, but the vast majority are fine. So the best thing to do, this is not a cop-out, it's very difficult to provide advice because these policies are changing all the time. So the best thing to do is to drop us an email, and we can either go through a list for you or, not remotely, we're desperate to hear from people, so yeah, do get in touch as early as you like.
And your complicated question?
A slightly more complicated question is, I have a project grant from Research Council X. This funds me to do a particular job. I'm also a scholar, and in my spare time, I may do a work that is independent of the data that I have acquired in that project. I may want to publish those data. Do I consider myself as funded by that Research Council in my scholarship work or not?
Catherine, you want to start?
Is it clear?
Yes, I can start.
And then I'll hand over to Liz, probably, or Phil, I don't know. Well, we'll get down the line. No, you start.
What clear what I'm asking?
Yes, what I would say from a practical point of view, I can't answer the question. I'd have to throw the question back to you, and that's what we'd usually do. So we normally work on the basis that if you're acknowledging the paper, if you're acknowledging the funder in the paper, then we consider it funded by that funder. But that's that for me.
Good working answer.
No, I think it's between you and your conscience. I'll tell you what I think you should do if we turn the camera off.
I would think that if it was done outside your time, but possibly you're only doing that research because you've had the support of a salary, government salary or institution or something in your day job that allows you to do that. Maybe you have to ask the institution for money.
Let's quick.
Yeah, I think any or all of those options are probably worth following.
Yep.
I don't know what the rules are at UCL in terms of IPR, but the institution might be one to ask.
Okay, and Bennett, I think there, and then gentleman halfway over there. Bennett.
Bennett Solway, History Department. I think one of the answers that Hefke would have to Lucia's question was that Hefke was the relevant funder there to be credited. If you want to credit somebody, paying the salary as a teacher and researcher. Right. And that takes me to question about how your pie chart with 4 parts, where is HEFCI in that? Because clearly they're going to be, as Phil pointed out, a key player in the future. They're going to want to be acknowledged for effectively what they supply through QR funding, which is won through REF. But at the moment, they're invisible, and I feel there is a danger, as Lucia has indicated, that some of these other funding streams, RC UK Welcome, will actually benefit by the back door from what funding is actually coming directly from HEFCI. That there is this danger of things being labelled under one title when actually they're under another. And in some cases, it might be easy for the individual to distinguish between what's done under a particular funded project and what's done after their general contracted work to UCL. For myself, that's actually still fairly clear, but for many in position in arts and humanities, that wouldn't necessarily be clear. And I think it is a fuzzy line, and so whose rules would then apply, RCUK's or HEFCI's about open access?
I think I should say it, and hopefully the other panellists will agree that it is unlikely that the 2 rules are going to conflict a great deal. So I don't think the choice in practice is going to be a terribly difficult one. It may be that we need to, I mean the pie chart is a pragmatic one at the moment, but it may be that we need to make some adjustments.
I think it talks about authors rather than papers.
Yes, it does.
Research or something like that.
Yes.
In that way I think it's misleading.
Yes, I see what you mean. The pages themselves don't talk about authors, they do talk about the research. We've maybe tried to oversimplify for the look of the thing, so I'll take that back. Thank you.
Anyone else want to? No? Okay, gentleman at the back.
Thank you.
And then gentleman over here.
I was just, something which I think cuts across a lot of the issues that have come up during the talk today is the question of total volume of publications. The fact that I would say that people publish too much, largely because they're strongly incentivized to. I mean, in terms of, there's also matters for people who are reading research to the extent that you might expect a more broad audience to take an interest in research. This is surely one of the aims of OAs, that everybody can read. But with the sheer volume, I mean, it's very difficult to keep up when your job is to keep up with the literature. And of course, everybody is encouraged to publish as much as possible and to put things in smaller and smaller pieces to some extent. So I was wondering what the panel thinks about that, and how that interacts with with OA and all the issues around it. I know, sorry, it's a slightly big question.
No, Brenton, this wants to come in.
Yeah. So I'll offer a rather oblique answer to that. I was speaking at Bath OA event as well, funnily enough, this week on Wednesday, and my talk then was about citizen science. And if you open up your research to the wider world, there's a lot more eyes to read it. And I was talking about lay summaries, in fact, on Wednesday afternoon, and the possibility of the Opus repository at Bath having a lay summary for every article that was deposited in it. I don't know whether that's something that would be of interest to UCL, but it does open up the possibility of more people reading your material and perhaps interpreting it and helping to understand it.
I heard an interesting statistic yesterday. I might have slightly got it wrong, but in general terms there have been as many publications in the past decade as there were in the previous 183 years. And it is a huge problem. I think open access helps to solve that problem, because if it's out there and it's free to reuse, you don't need just eyeballs. You can have very sophisticated search engines to extract information and tools and to try and help you down and locate the information that you need. I think if it's behind subscription barriers, it's much more difficult.
I think we have a question over here. Yes? And then a question over here, please. Sir.
Hello, Rob Harvey from School of Pharmacy. I'd just like to ask the panel what we do about double dipping. You said it's a danger, but I think it's already here. Every time we're paying an open access charge for a journal that UCL is subscribing to, it's essentially operating. So So what's the panel think should be done about that?
I think Phil's the man for that.
Well, I think I can describe in sort of broad outline what Research Libraries UK would probably want to do about this. I mean, we're still developing our policy, so I can't claim this is our formal policy. But what we're doing at the moment is sort of really establishing a very firm argument against double dipping and trying to sketch what kind of arrangements might be come to with publishers which would reduce the incidence of double dipping. I mean, I do agree with you that we're already in a position where there is a large amount of double dipping. And again, I can't say what the formal policy will be, but the sorts of things we've been discussing are firstly very much linking the amount that we pay to publishers in terms of article processing charges with the amount we pay in terms of subscriptions. Publishers are very resistant to that and claim that the two pay for completely different things. But as far as we're concerned, that it's all coming out of the pockets of the larger research universities. So it's important that we establish the principle that those two things are linked. Another thing that we will be, I think, emphatic about is that we will be looking for discounts on our subscription prices based upon our volume of article processing charge payment. Or conversely, the kind of deal that the Royal Society of Chemistry are offering, where they're basically saying if you subscribe to a certain subscription package, you will get, your article processing charges will be waived. As always, the question is, well, what happens if the publishers don't accept that? But we are likely to get strong covering fire from government. Because basically the government feel that we came to an agreement with publishers under the Finch review. And the deal, really, the Finch deal, is that the government didn't do anything that would destroy the business model for UK publishing. They didn't introduce, we didn't introduce zero embargo periods for Green on the grounds that that might destabilise UK academic publishing. But on the other hand, the implicit deal is that the publishers wouldn't indulge in profiteering. So certainly what Research Libraries UK and I think NIST Collections would be doing would be working with publishers to see what the real transitional costs of moving to Gold Open Access are, and then making sure that the payments that we make as research universities to publishers reflect those real costs and not some inflated idea of the costs. It's complicated because the publishers are very fertile at coming up with arguments for doing what they want to do. So one of the things they say, for example, when we say, well, so what the cost to a $3,000? Look a bit shifty and sheepish, and then they say, well, actually, what we need to do is we need to pass on your APC payment to all other subscribers to that journal to make it fractionally cheaper for them. So they're kind of saying Huddersfield has to pay an APC to make the journal cheaper for Harvard. Now that would come as news, I think, to most academics. I think most of you think what you're trying to do if you pay a gold open access publication charge is to make that article available to people who can't afford to subscribe to the journal. You don't actually think you're trying to make it cheaper for other subscribers. So the publishers are putting themselves in the curious position of offering a service but not actually providing the service that the consumers of that service actually want. So I think we're developing quite a strong narrative about why double dipping ought to be avoided. But if it comes to a fight, as I said earlier in response to a question, it will be a matter of us just having to stick together, stick to our guns, and not compromise readily.
Could I just reply to that? I mean, I think it should be an immediate priority to stop this practice, because certain publishers must be laughing all the way to the bank at the moment. They have our subscriptions, and now they're getting our open access fees on top.
Yes?
Just a couple of points to add. I was at a meeting recently where some commercial publishers were asked how they came up with the figure, and it was basically a legacy figure that someone came up with, 5 or 6 years ago, $3,000, sort of what you should charge for open access when you have a subscription journal. So it's not clear exactly where those costs are coming from. The other problem is that even in hybrid journals, it's not clear that publishers are then committed to transitioning those journals to full open access and are actually using it as a delaying tactic. And I heard comments actually from people in the EU that one option might be just to ban hybrid journals full stop. I'm not sure that would work. If it does help transition, I think there may be a transitional cost, but there needs to be a sort of clear timeline over which that journal will transition towards open access as they convert the articles within it.
Phil wants another 30 seconds, and then I'll come to that area.
Sorry, I just wanted to say, I completely agree with what you say. I think the publishers are laughing all the way to the bank with this, and I think it is important to take action quickly. All I would say is that our previous campaign to sort of limit the level of inflation in journal prices demonstrated that what's very important is careful coalition building. So what we're doing at the moment is we're working carefully to make sure that the sort of policy that I've just outlined has full sign-up from UK libraries. We're going to go shortly to the UK, Russell Group Research PVCs to try and make sure that they're absolutely on side with this. We'll go around the finance directors, we'll go around various other groups. And then when we're confident that we have a strong coalition in place, we will take action.
Thank you. Time for the final question in this public session. There'll be plenty of opportunity to corner the speakers in the drinks and the Flaxman Gallery afterwards, but our final public question.
Claire Stanford, Neuroscience, Physiology, Pharmacology. In respect of open access data, what are the IP implications for anything new generated from data, and what are the author's rights?
I think this is, once again, an area that is in its infancy. The DCC is seeking to provide some guidance in this area. We have provided guidance in legal issues in the past, but it's an area we're very aware of. UK Data Service, similarly at Essex. We need to do more work in that area, so look out for it. It will be coming soon, some guidance.
If I understand, it's a bit like Watson and Crick's during Rosalind Franklin's. It may be legally all right, but the ethical position is absolutely clear, isn't it?
Yeah, yes, no, I agree totally, and I've used Rosalind Franklin in some of my own open data talks.
Okay. Well, thank you for that, and thank you for your questions. Do keep them coming in the Flaxman Gallery, to which we're going in literally 5 minutes for those who can stay for drinks and cheese. We just want to finish the session with, we have 2 prizes to give, and I'm going to hand over to Catherine at this point, who's going to do the master ceremonies for the last 5 minutes for the two prizes for our prize giving.
Thanks, Paul. I have a huge orange box here with about 400 slips in it, all of yours, and about 350 entries from other people who've entered the competition to win an iPad. The idea of the competition was really just to tell you that these web pages are there, that we have these services, and that we'd like you to get in touch with us and use them. It is quite possible that this will be a huge anticlimax because the person who wins may not be in this room. But that is down to Phil, I'm afraid, who I'm going to ask to dip his hand in and rustle around.
Right. The winner of the iPad is Warren Baquet from the Ear Institute. Is he here?
I don't think he's here.
Oh.
No, unfortunately, but
is he disqualified?
No.
Sadly, no. We felt that we had to be fair. So yeah, but keep an eye on the web pages because you never know when there'll be another one. So we'll be presenting that to him, and we also have another presentation.
Thank you. Yes, we have a bottle of champagne from the Vice Provost Research's office. David Price gives a bottle of champagne from his own funds for every time we reach 1 million downloads of UCL Discovery. This is the 3rd bottle of champagne that we've awarded because we've just passed our 3 million download, and the lucky author is Professor Paul Bate from Chime, who's one of his papers was the 3 million download from UCL Discovery. Unfortunately, this is becoming a trend, isn't it? Professor Bate can't be with us this afternoon, but Dr. Henry Potts from Time is going to receive the bottle on Professor Bates' behalf, so can I ask you to show your appreciation for Professor Bates?
Thanks, Paul can't be here. He sends regards. He told me to say the thanks should go to the UCL Discovery team for making all of this possible. And he's very chuffed because the paper is about social movements theory. It's about how big organisations can use things like electronic sources to affect change. So it seems deeply appropriate that open access as just that sort of thing should be involved in that. Thanks.
Ladies and gentlemen, that does end the formal part of the session. Do please try and join us for a drink, the cheese and wine in the Saxton Gallery.